Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Hey Everybody podcast, episode 75, take two. It's take two because I shot take one this morning and then I edited it and I added the audio and the pictures of the albums and all that kind of stuff. And the whole time I had this sort of gnawing feeling that it was not very good. And then, I watched just part of it when it was finished, and it sucked. And I don't want to make stuff that sucks, you know? A huge part of my life is about making things and putting stuff out in the universe and the world, and I want it to be good. And I know well enough to know that I don't get to decide how other people feel about it, but I also know well enough to know, like, if before it goes out there, I'm feeling like, I don't know. I should probably just push the big red button and start over. So I set everything back up and we're going again. I hope you guys are doing well. I'm doing all right. I'm fairly tired today. I had a great weekend. I played a show on Saturday that just felt wonderful. It was a perfect show. The setting was great. The crowd was great. Everything just felt really, really good. And I was thankful to have that. I feel like it's been a while since I've been able to put on exactly the kind of show I wanted to put on and have an attentive crowd and that kind of thing. So it's very cool. And if you were there, thank you. The other thing I did this weekend that I forgot to talk about in take one of this podcast, which is why I was happy to reshoot it, is Tori and I stayed up till about 4:30 in the morning on Friday watching the third and sadly final season of a wonderful show on Netflix called Afterlife, written, directed, and starring Ricky Gervais, of whom I am a fan. And this show in particular is just such a beautiful exploration of grief and a purposeful life and the relationships we have with people around us. And it's hilarious. There were many times where I would be like welling up or full on crying and then all of a sudden laughing really, really hard. I cannot recommend this show highly enough. I don't know anyone who's seen it that doesn't feel the same way I do. So the third and final season is on Netflix now, and it'll get wrapped up for you in what I felt like was a wonderful and very satisfying way. While we're talking about TV shows, I've been thinking a lot about a scene from the American version of The Office. If you have not seen the British version, I highly recommend it. I was living in England when it was airing originally, and it was a very big deal. And I enjoyed that a lot. And because I enjoyed it so much, it took me a long time to get into the American version, because the American version, the pilot episode, is almost a shot-for-shot recreation of the first episode of the British version, and a lot of it just didn't translate very well. Fortunately, very quickly, I found out later, the American version kind of found its own voice and lane and that kind of thing, and I like it a lot now. It's one of my favorite shows. But there's a scene in season 9 where Jim and Pam are having conflict because Jim is off doing this new company and it's bringing a lot of stress into their lives. And Jim is talking to Toby, and he's saying that if Pam could just hold on a little bit longer, this is going to be great. It's going to be so good for the family and for them and for him and everything. And Toby says, well, how much longer? And Jim says, well, I don't know. I have no way of answering that. And Toby says, well, don't you think it's hard for Pam to sign up for discomfort and struggle with no end in sight? And Jim kind of gets it now. And I think the genius of that scene is that everybody's right. Like, Jim's not being willfully difficult by saying, I don't know when this is going to end. And he's not purposely being a dick by going out and doing this. And he really does care about Pam and his family, and he wants good things for them. But Toby is also right that, like, without an end in sight, suffering is compounded. And I think it brilliantly touches on a thing that is true about humans, which is we're remarkably adaptable, and we have this amazing stamina if we have a timeline, if we know this is going to go on for this long in this way, but it'll end at this time and I can make it to then. I've spent a lot of time in tattoo shops. You can probably tell. But I worked in a tattoo shop for a long time. So in addition to being tattooed a lot, I saw a lot of people get tattooed. And a lot of times in very painful places like this hurt real bad. I have both sides of my head tattooed. That hurt real bad. And I would see other people come in and get tattooed and it would hurt real bad. And one of the things you see a lot, almost all tattoo artists do, is when the client is really starting to hit a wall, you'll hear the tattoo artist start to say, like, all right, just about 10 more minutes here. Or, I've got the outline done. I just have to do some shading, or, just about finished. I just put in some highlights. And that helps the person get through it. It's remarkable the sort of second wind someone will get when they realize how close they are to the end of something. And we have been living in times these last couple years where the goalpost keeps moving, or we're being told now that, like, it might not end. And if it does, we're not sure when or how, and that kind of thing. And particularly with COVID, but also with, political atmosphere and social issues and all that kind of stuff, and I've just been kind of struggling with the frustration of, like, when does this end, And if it's never going to end, can someone just admit that, and we can make our peace with that, and we can figure out how to live lives in a world where this or that is going to be part of it forever. And I wanted to share that with you for a couple of reasons. One, I think one of the downsides of a lot of the philosophical, mindful, be here now kind of waters I swim in from time to time is that it can sometimes be a little too rosy. It can be a little too like, well, this will bring you peace and then you'll be at peace forever. And that's not the way my life is. And I would hate for anyone to think that that's the way my life is. Sometimes shit is just stressful and frustrating and hard, But I think there can be a community in that. I think sometimes in the absence of resolution or assistance or epiphany or advice, we can feel a little better just knowing, like, oh, you're struggling with that? I'm struggling with that. Like, it is frustrating, isn't it? I don't have any answers. I don't, I know everyone's doing their best and that kind of thing, but it is frustrating, isn't it? And to hear someone say that sometimes is just enough to make you go, okay, it is. All right. I'm not crazy. But I also wanted to share it with you because I wonder if once we accept as individuals that we're not going to be given a roadmap here, we're not going to be given a destination or an ETA or when exactly this is going to wrap up, whatever this is, I wonder if there's a way to adapt and go, okay, well, we're going to have to figure out how to make this path, have moments of respite in it, because this path may be endless. It's easy to kind of put your shoulder down and charge through something when it's, from here to here. It's A to B. It's this long. When you're told, like, this could be the next 10 years of your life, you have to figure out ways to rest. I've heard a few people say about meditation, which I'm not a meditator, but I've heard people say that, like, saying you don't have time to meditate is like going to Disney World and saying you don't have time to stop for gas. Like, you're not going to make it there. You have to make the time. And I think for some people, meditation is a great way to do that. For some people, it's exercise. For some people, it's music. For some people, it's conversation and community, or just straight up sleep. But I do think we have to find those things, especially these days when we're not really being told when this or that is going to come to an end. And one of the things I've been doing, I've noticed, sitting here and talking to you guys, just sitting in this chair with my feet on the ground in front of me and talking to you guys is often a very like restful, relaxing thing. It doesn't feel performative or like a show or anything like that. And I think part of it is because I'm just doing what I'm doing right now. So there's not a ton of room for whatever other stresses might be happening. And I think that is one of the undersold benefits of a mindfulness, sort of be here now kind of attitude, is that if you are present all the time, you will notice little moments where like, oh, I can just rest right now. I can just take a break right now. One of the things I've been doing for several years, and I think I've even talked about it on the podcast before, is waiting. When I have to wait for something, and I know it's not going to be terribly long, I've been going out of my way to just wait. I don't take out my phone. I don't read a book. If I'm meeting a friend and I get there early, or if I'm at the doctor's office in the waiting room, I just sit there and I wait. And I let my mind sort of wander and refresh. And it's amazing when you start like looking how many restful moments you'll find in a day if you look for them and if you don't rush to fill them with more shit. I think we've become sort of dependent on input and stimuli. And if you start being intentional about finding your restful moments, you might find that there are more than you thought there were. And those moments become very important when you're on a path where the end is not known. Take your restful moments so you can keep going. I think that's really important. And hopefully I explained it in a more clear fashion than I did this morning. Oh, you guys, it was rambles. It was trash. It was awful. The ending was particularly bad. So now let's do some recommendations, because music for me is a huge sort of way to recharge and like, I'm going to take a break and just really actively listen to this song or that, I was pissed off about making a bad podcast and I got to set everything up and I got to reshoot it. So I purposely listened to Church Street Blues by Tony Rice just to get my mind right. And I loved it. First, the theme from last week, nobody guessed it. The first record was called Kinsugi, which is an art form wherein if like a piece of pottery breaks, you repair it by fusing it back together with gold. So you can tell it has been broken, but it's been repaired in a way that makes it more interesting and beautiful. And that's called Kinsugi. And the second record was called Mended with Gold. So they sort of both have the same title, and they're both really good records. Also, by the way, I apologize to you guys for not telling you where the pizza came from last week. It came from Papa John's. Very hesitant to make food recommendations because people sometimes rightly take food very seriously. I quite enjoyed this pizza. You might not. It's fine. I'm not saying it's as good as New York pizza, but it's pretty dang good. I recommend it. So today, for the musical recommendations, we're going to start with the weird one that you might not like, but I hope you listen to anyways. This record is called Lament. It's by a band called Touche Amore from California. I love this band. They're like a hardcore band, like a punk band. People are weird about their genres, but I like it, and I call it hardcore music. They've always been an interesting band for a couple reasons. One, their frontman has a way of shouting or screaming or yelling that I still find very audible, and I like a lot of his lyrics, and I can make all of them out, which is great. And two, their guitar players favor a more like British, sort of gothy, almost Cure-inspired, jangly, kind of cleaner, chorusy guitar tone, which is very unique and fun for the genre. If you're a guitar guy or gal, I will tell you, they play hardcore punk music, but with single coils and like Fender amps, and it's radical. They're also getting more and more experimental in a really fun way. On this record, their guitar player has been learning how to play pedal steel, and he does it twice on this record, and it's so good. I love it. If I had my way, he would play pedal steel all the time now. I want a hardcore punk country band so bad. There's also a lot of keyboards, and then you get like guest appearances from Andy from Manchester Orchestra and Julian Baker, who I think is great. And I think you'll like it if you like it. And if you don't, it's fine. You don't have to like everything. Lament by Touche Amore. Let's go. Up next, oh, heavens to Betsy. The Staple Singers. This record's called Swing Low, Sweet Chariot. But just get whatever you can get. Listen to whatever you can from the Staple Singers because you can't go wrong. They're so good and life-affirming and good. And it doesn't matter what you believe in or what you think. Just listen to the dang Staple Singers and you'll believe in them. And you'll think, oh, that's pretty good. I feel good. If this record doesn't make you feel good, you should stop watching this podcast because I got nothing else for you. I love this music and this record and this group. Coincidentally, the last name is Staples, but professionally, they are the Staple Singers. Very curious. It's just great. It's really great. I can't recommend it highly enough. Let the Staple Singers take you to church, why don't you? And then finally, this is a fun one. I have a lot to say. This record is called The Marfa Tapes by Jack Ingram, Miranda Lambert, and John Randle. You may recognize some of those names from like the radio. A lot of these people are on like country radio making music that if you had asked a couple weeks ago, I would have said like, I'm just not that familiar with it. It's not quite my bag or whatever. You know, people like it. I haven't heard a ton of it. But a friend of mine, this is fun. I have the right kind of friends. A friend of mine sends me a text message and he says, hey, listen to this record. And I listened to it and I said, I don't love it. I love the production of it and how like sparse and raw it is. But the rest, I'm not a huge fan of. He immediately responds with, oh, well then listen to this record and sends a link to the Marfa tapes. And it's superb. And I'm so thankful to have friends, A, that recommend music, and B, that don't get all prickly when you don't like their music, and C, are dialed in enough and paying close enough attention that if they recommend something, you go, well, I didn't like that, but I like this. They can hit you with another recommendation that hits all the bases. And this record is beautiful and good. It's three people. They went out to the desert, sat around a campfire, and just recorded, I think, 16 songs. 17? 15. I don't know. There's some songs on here, dude. And you can hear the bonfire. You can hear like desert noises in the background. You can hear them talking to each other. It's about as raw as a recording can get, but it's so good. And it's a testament to like, for me, to not deciding something's not for you or that you don't like it because of what you think you know about it or the people that made it or whatever. And just come at it with like an open ear and an open mind. And you get something really, really good. I love this record. And I have recommended it to a ton of people. And now I'm recommending it to you. So there you go. Touche Amore, the Staple Singers, the Marfa Tapes, and watch Afterlife. It's lovely. And that's that. I think this one was better than the last one anyways. So it all worked out. Now I just have to land the plane, you know? Because the end of the first one is where it got really, really bad. So, I hope you guys are doing all right. I know it's been a few years of just wondering what's going on and what's going to happen and when there's going to be some respite and that kind of thing. And I know relief and rest and peace are hard to come by. So I hope you found some of it here. Hope you find some of it in those records. If you've ever found any of it at a show of mine or a song of mine, that means a lot to me. And hopefully we'll see you soon, either here next week or at a show somewhere. And just take it easy, Be nice to yourself and try to let yourself believe that everyone's doing their best. Um, and maybe that'll get you where you're trying to go and help you sleep a little better at night. In the meantime, I'm happy to have had this time with you, and we'll see you next week. Bye.